Hello, hello everybody. Happy Friday. Welcome on in to Raven's Hollow for Folklore Friday. I hope you've all been doing very, very well. It has been a while since we've done a Folklore Friday. We're still going through a massive chunk of Welsh folklore. Babe, can you be nice, please? Stop being mean. Oh. Oh. But yeah, we are in with Folklore Friday, as always. Be nice. But yeah. So we are going... Hi Jaguar! How are you, darling? Welcome on in. Welcome in. We have our lovely... A fan blowing a hair in my face then. We have our lovely pictures of Welsh creatures and areas of Wales, which are some of our stories. And I played around with this, remaking this scene today, so I hope it looks alright, at least. And I hope the background music is adequate level for you guys as well. But yeah, we are delving in deep again with our Welsh folklore. We're in the S categories. We were... Last time I remember where we left off was different signs and things in Welsh folklore. Oh, thank you! He is a grumple bear. He is the guarder. He's the guarding of the biddy jar. He'd win a fight. Coughing baby or a goblin eye. I don't know, babe. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Did you have to Google goblin eye spelling? Oh, big words. But I wouldn't know. I wouldn't be able to tell you. But yeah, we are currently looking at the different signs in Welsh folklore and myths of what would sort of announce somebody as dying back in the day. Yeah, we're going down some grim areas. We're in the stories of Satan, ghosts, etc. There are a lot of parts in my research. But I'm hoping once I get through all the Welsh folklore, I will be moving on to the other countries of the world, which I'm looking forward to. But yeah, I hope you guys get very, very comfy. Yeah, the bear is a new little addition to the group. He is the grumpy guarder of the biddy jar. I thought it was very fitting. Hi Nicole, how are you, honey? Welcome on in to our cozy little grove. I hope you are comfortable and have all your snacks ready for a lovely stream. I played around with the new scene today, so I'm pretty happy with it. you know. And I hope you enjoyed the picture slideshow as well, that I made. And if you do have any countries you want me to like cover in future, you know, always drop them on my Twitter or anything like that. I'm always excited to, you know, start my new researches and things like that for when we finish the Welsh folklore. But yeah, I've got my drink, I've got my farm. I will forewarn you, some of the things will be in Welsh, but most of them do have English, you know, oh, what is the word? Translations for them, if they're bigger pieces, like from resource books and stuff. But yeah, we were covering the signs of folklore, back in folklore and history, of like if something happened or something appeared or was seen, or it did something, it was a sign that somebody in either a household or a family would pass away. So slowly going through the list of those where we left off last. If you have missed any of the other folklore streams and would love to catch yourself up, I do have them all on my YouTube channel. That's where my VODs go to stay archived. So, you know, if there is a particular piece of content of mine that you may have missed, you'll find them on my YouTube. I have an entire playlist over there for folklore, so you're always welcome to check those out. And right on cue at Nightbot with the YouTube link there. So feel free to drop a sub down there and watch any of my past broadcasts that you've missed here. And it ranges from gameplays to folklores and a couple of shorts and stuff when I make my little clips and stuff. But yeah, let's dig right in. So we're starting off with the Tolaeth, which is the death rapping or knocking. The death rappings are said to be heard in carpenters' workshops, and that they resemble the noise made by a carpenter when engaging in coffin making. A respectable miner's wife told me that a female friend told her she had often heard this noise in a carpenter's shop close by her abode, and that one Sunday evening this friend came and told her that the Tolaeth was at work then, and if she would come with her she should hear it. She complied, and there she heard this peculiar sound, and was thoroughly frightened. There was no one in the shop at the time, the carpenter and his wife being in chapel. Sometimes this noise was heard by the person who was to die, but generally by his neighbours. The sounds were heard in houses even, and when this was the case, the noise resembled the noise made as a shroud is being nailed into the coffin. You have the ravens croaking. So a raven croaking hoarsely as it flew through the air became the angel of death to some person over whose house it flew. It was a bird of ill omen. Funny enough, ravens are my favourite bird. And then you have the owl. So this bird's dismal and persistent screeching near an abode also foretold the death of an inmate of that house. I do love ravens, hence why my entire community is known as Ravens Hollow. And Ravens Hollow is also the name of Nozomi's sanctuary, her magical sanctuary and safe haven that she built to escape her bad past and to keep herself safe from those who wished her harm. So yeah, Ravens Hollow and ravens have they're quite important to me. I absolutely adore blackbirds, crows, and ravens, but ravens are my absolute favorites. They also get given the name jackdaw as well, but I like ravens. Edgar Allan Poe as well was very good. I do have an idea to have a raven and a robin together as a tattoo idea at some point, but tattoos be expensive. Then you have a solitary crow. The cawing of a solitary crow on a tree near a house indicates a death in that house. I think at some point in the olden days, people were just looking at animals going, they've made a noise, this means something. Because you've got the dog's howl. A dog howling on the doorsteps or at the entrance of a house also foretold death. The noise was that peculiar howling noise which dogs sometimes make. It was in Welsh called un ydw, or crying. My God. I haven't read like Welsh text in a while, so I'm just like, it throws you through a leaf. Through a leaf? A loop. Oh God, I can't talk today. I'll blame the weather. That's what everyone does. So there's one called missing a butt. So should a farmer in sowing wheat or other kind of corn or potatoes or turnips miss a row or butt, it was a token of death. I did not know what a butt was until I read that. It was like, oh, it's farm related. It's another word for like a row or a spot in the field. We have a lot of farms in Wales, but I don't know much about farming per se. You know, some farm animals scare me, so I tend not to know much. I do like to support local farmers, though, you know, if we can. You know, buy stuff that they've grown and sent over. That's always good. So you got stopping of a clock. The unaccountable stopping of the kitchen clock generally created a consternation in a family where it was supposed to foretell the death of one of the family. And then we have a goose flying over a house. So this unusual occurrence prognosticated a death in that house. But why? Poor people. Well, the people in the old days were terrified of a lot of things. Death seemed to be quite, you know, foreboding for them. So you have a goose or a hen laying a small egg. So this event also was thought to be a very bad omen, if not a sign of death. Or a hen laying 2 eggs in the same day. So should a hen lay 2 eggs in the same day, it was considered a sign of death. I have been told that a hen belonging to a person who lived in Henllan near Denbigh laid an egg early in the morning and another about 7 o'clock p.m. in the same day, and the master died. Oh God. If you've got a big family, you should look out for 13 at a table. So should 13 sit at a table, it was believed that the first to leave would be buried within the year. Heather, for flowers. So should any person bring heather into a house, he brought death to one or other of the family by doing so. Okay. You have the Death Watch. I love how these are just like very grim aspects in the folklore and mythical sense. So this is a sound like the ticking of a watch made by a small insect. It is considered a sign of death and hence its name, Death Watch. A working man's wife, whose uncle was ill in bed, told the writer that she had no hopes of his recovery because death ticks were heard night and day in his room. The man, who was upwards of 80 years old, died. Well, I mean, you sure it weren't old age? You know? They've got music and bird singing heard before death. The writer, both in Denbighshire and Carnarvonshire, was told that the dying have stated that they heard sweet voices singing in the air, and they called the attention of the watchers to the angelic sounds, and requested perfect stillness, so as not to lose a single note of the heavenly music. A young lad whom the writer knew, an intelligent and promising boy, whilst laying on his deathbed, told his mother that he had heard a bird warbling beautifully outside the house, and in rapture he listened to the bird's notes. His mother told me of this, and she stated further that she had herself on 3 different occasions, previously to her eldest daughter's death, in the middle of the night, distinctly heard singing of the most lovely kind, coming, as she thought, from the other side of the river. She went to the window and opened it, but the singing immediately ceased, and she failed to see anyone on the spot where she had imagined the singing came from. My informant also told me that she was not the only person who had heard lovely singing before the death of a friend. She gave me the name of a nurse, who before the death of a person, whose name was also given, heard 3 times the most beautiful singing just outside the sick house. She looked out into the night, but failed to see anyone. Singing of this kind is expected before the death of every good person, and it is a happy omen, and that the dying is going to heaven. Oh, that's sweet. So we got a bit of Welsh coming up as well, so we'll do my best to translate this for you as well, because it has translations. Death needed a hobby. They did. Yes. So in the life of Tegid, which is given in his Great Bartholomew. Good God, I am so out of touch with fucking Welsh. Page 20, it is stated, yn ei absenoldeb o'r eglwys pan ar wely angi ar fôr dydd i'r arglwydd ra i'r oedd offeriad cymydogallol yn darllen yn ei le yn llan na hifer bodwyd leis ei darllenydd gan Llywelchen a daraway drwy i'r eglwys acan uwchel a personol yn can't stop laughing. Ddisymwyth iawn ar ôl dyfod o'r eglwys cafwyd Alan Mai ar y amser hwnnw yn gwir i'r ehedol unaidd mae'r tegid o'i gorff I fyd i'r ysbryddoedd. Which translates in as follows. In his absence from church, when lying on his deathbed in the morning of the Lord's Day, whilst a neighbouring clergyman was taking the service for him in Nanhyver Church, the voice of the reader was suddenly drowned by the beautiful song of a thrush that filled the whole church. It was ascertained on leaving the church that at that very moment the soul of Tegid left his body for the world of spirits. In the midst of the Middle Ages, page 426, an account is given of the Piper of Hamelin, and there we have a description of this spirit song. Sweet angels are calling to me from yon shore. Come over, and wander no more. Miners believe that some of their friends have the gift of seeing fatal accidents before they occur. A miner in the east of Denbighshire told me of instances of this belief, and he gave circumstantial proof of the truth of his assertion. Akin to his faith is the belief that people have seen coffins or spectral beings enter houses, both of which augur a coming death. In the Lives of the Cambro-British Saints, pages 444, it is stated that previously to the death of St. David, the whole city was filled with the music of angels. The preceding death omens do not, perhaps, exhaust the number, but they are quite enough to show how prevalent they were, and how prone the people were to believe in such portents. Some of them can be accounted for on natural grounds, but the majority are the creation of the imagination, strengthened possibly in certain instances by remarkable coincidences which were remembered, whilst if no death occurred after any of the omens, the failure was forgotten. At least, people needed hobbies, like, I think, in the afterlife, so it was like, you had the creation of tales and superstitions and things like that, you know, things to keep your children to behave, you know. But, you know, I also think in some tales there are truth to some of the tales, so it's like, you know, stuff has occurred and happened. And I'm absolutely fascinated with folklore, honestly. But we've covered some of our death, you know, our death omens. So we are moving on to the topic of birds and beasts. And Wales is a very, you know, it's got a lot of nature and wildlife about. You know, highly recommend people visiting Wales, you know, for the views and the history. Definitely. But they, you know, they do go into some more omens as well, and different animals. So most animals in Wales, I think, were highly respected as well in the old days. You know, because, you know, the demons and all sorts could, you know, use them for their messages and things like that. So, folklore respecting animals is common in Wales. It has been supposed that mountainous countries are the cradles of superstition, but this is at least open to a doubt, for most places perpetuate these strange fancies, and many of them have reached our days from times of old, and the exact country whence they came is uncertain. Still, it cannot be denied that rugged, rocky, sparsely inhabited uplands, moorlands and fens are congenial abodes for wild fancies, that have their foundation in ignorance, and are perpetuated by the credulity of an imaginative people that lead isolated and solitary lives. The bleating of the sheep, as they wander over a large expanse of barren mountain land, is dismal indeed, and well might become ominous of storms and disasters. The big fat sheep, which are penned in the lowlands of England, with a tinkling bell strapped to the neck of the king of the flock, convey a notion of peace and plenty to the mind of the spectator, that the shy, active mountain sheep, with their angry grunt and stamping of their feet, never convey. Still, these latter are endowed with an instinct which the English mutton producer does not exercise. Welsh sheep become infallible prognosticators of change of weather, for, by a never-failing instinct, they leave the high and bare mountain ridges for sheltered nooks, and crowd together when they detect the approach of a storm. Man does not observe atmospheric changes as quickly as sheep do, and as sheep evidently possess one instinct which is strongly developed and exercised, it is not unreasonable to suppose that man, in a low state of civilization, might credit animals with possessing powers which, if observed, indicate or foretell other events besides storms. Thus, the lowly piping of the solitary curlew, the saucy burr of the grouse, the screech of the owl, the croaking of the raven, the flight of the magpie, slowly flying heron, the noisy cock, the hungry seagull, the shrill note of the woodpecker, sportive duck, all become omens. Bird omens have descended to us from remote antiquity. Rome is credited with having received its pseudoscience of omens from Etruria. But whence came it there? This semi-religious faith, like a river that has its source in a far distant, unexplored mountain region, and meanders through many countries, and does not exclusively belong to any one of the lands through which it wanders. So neither does it seem that these credulities belong to any one people or age, and it is difficult, if not impossible, to trace to their origin omens, divination, magic, witchcraft, and other such cognate matters, which seem to belong to man's nature. Readers of Livy remember how Romulus and Remus had recourse to bird omens to determine which of the brothers should build Rome. Remus saw 6 vultures, and Romulus 12. Therefore, as his number was the greater, to him fell the honour of building the famous city. This was not the only bird test known to the Romans. Before a battle, those people consulted their game fowl to ascertain whether or not victory was about to attend their arms. If the birds picked up briskly the food thrown to them, victory was theirs. If they did so sluggishly, the omen was unpropitious, and consequently the battle was delayed. Plutarch, in his Life of Alexander, gives us many proofs of that great general's credulity. The historian says, upon his, Alexander's, approach to the walls of Babylon, he saw a great number of crows fighting, some of which fell down dead at his feet. This was a bad sign. But I will not pursue the subject. Enough have been said to prove how common omens were. I will now confine my remarks to Wales. Birds singing before February. Should the feather songsters sing before February, it is a sign of hard, ungenuine weather. This applies particularly to the blackbird and throstle. The following lines embody this faith. Osgane ada in Februar llwyddiant din Mai. If birds sing before February, they will cry before May. Thus their early singing prognosticates a prolonged winter. Bygones, Volume 1, page 88. Birds flocking in early autumn. So when birds gather themselves together to form flock in the early days of autumn, it is thought to foretell an early and severe winter. On the other hand, should they separate in early spring and again congregate in flocks, this shews the hard weather is to be expected, and that winter will rest on the lap of May. Birds' feathers. The feather beds should be made of domestic birds' feathers, such as geese, ducks, and fowls. Wild fowl feathers should not be mixed with these feathers, for otherwise the sick will die hard, and thus the agony of their last moments be prolonged. Now we move on to the cock, the rooster per se, but it's called the cock in these these things. But to clarify, it is a male chicken. Get your head out the gutter, everybody. So Caesar BK, Volume 5, the 12, tells us that the Celtic nation did not regard it lawful to eat the cock. I'm going to call it the rooster because I cannot do that. Oh, we're not filthy people. We'll call it the rooster. It was thought that the devil. It's so hard. Like this, most of this paragraph has that word in it, so I'm just like, no. It was thought that the devil assumed occasionally the form of a rooster. It is said that at Llanfor, near Bala, the evil spirit was driven out of the church in the form of a rooster. Embrace the cock. No. And laid in the River Dee. God damn it, babe, stop it. Formerly, the rooster was offered to the water god, and at certain holy wells in Wales, such as that in the parish of Llandegla, it was customary to offer to Saint Tecla a rooster for a male patient and a hen for a female. A like custom prevailed at St. David's well in Bodfari. Classical readers may remember that Socrates, before his death, desired his friend Crito to offer a rooster to to Aesculapius. Crito, said he, and these were his last words, "We owe a rooster to Aesculapius. Discharge that debt for me, and pray do not forget it." Soon after which he breathed his last. In our days, the above-mentioned superstitions do not prevail, but the rooster has not been resigned entirely to the cook. By some means or other, it still retains the power of announcing the visit of a friend. At least so says the mountain farmer's wife. The good wife in North Wales, when the rooster comes to the door sill and there crows many times in succession, tells her children that someone is coming to visit us. I wonder who it is. Before nightfall, a friend drops in, and he is informed that he was expected, and that rooster had crowed time after time by the door, and that it was no good sending him away, for he would come back and crow and crow. And now, adds she, you have come. It is not strange, says the good woman, that he never makes a mistake. And then follows a word of praise for Chanticleer, which the stranger endorses. However much the hospitable liked to hear their rooster crow in the daytime, he was not to crow at night. But it was formerly believed that the crowing of the rooster, fairies, spirits, ghosts and goblins rushed to their dread abodes. Puck was to meet the fairy king. Here, the first rooster crow. There's so many of that word in there. Oh, it gets worse. It gets worse because of cockfighting or rooster fighting. Oh dear. Oh, I'm an adult and I'm still trying to be modest. Come on now. Rooster fighting. Oh my god. Rooster fighting was once common in Wales, and it was said that the most successful rooster fighters fought the bird that resembled the colour of the day when the conflict took place. Thus, the blue game rooster was brought out on cloudy days, black when the atmosphere was inky in colour, black-red on sunny days, and so on. Charms for roosters have already been mentioned in page 267. They differed in different places. In Llansanfraid, Montgomeryshire, a crumb from the communion table taken therefrom at midnight following the administration of the Holy Communion was an infallible charm. This was placed in the socket of the steel spur, which was then adjusted to the natural spur. In Bygones Volume 1, page 88. I can't with those, Jesus. Oh, I know it's a word for a rooster, but it was said a lot. Some knew what they were doing when they wrote this. I know! Like, I don't think, like, you imagine, like, way back then, they're like, oh, no one's going to think anything of this. And, like, in 2023, somebody's covering folklore on a stream. That's like, nah. And they just go, yeah, let her drop all the C-bombs. I'm like, it's a chicken. It's a male chicken. Just call it a rooster. But nah, apparently that was too long a word. Oh my goodness. I know I'm a grown adult, but come on. I laugh at this. Oh. So the goose. So should a goose lay a soft egg, a small egg, or 2 eggs in a day, it is a sign of misfortune to the owner of that goose. An old woman in Llandrinio parish, Montgomeryshire, who lived in a cottage by the side of a Severn, and who possessed a breed of geese that laid eggs and hatched twice a year. When I asked her the time the geese should begin to lay, she said, Before St. Valentine's Day, every good goose will lay. And she added, by St. Chad, every good goose and bad. St. Chad's Day is March 2nd. Mr. Samuel Williams from Salatin gave me the following version of the above ditty. On Candlemas Day, every good goose begins to lay. Another rendering is, every good goose ought to lay on Candlemas Day. And Candlemas Day is February 2nd. The geese should sit so as to hatch their young when the moon waxes and not when it wanes, for otherwise the goslings would not thrive. The lucky one in the family should place the eggs for hatching under the goose or hen. For the following paragraph I am indebted to Freud, a writer in Bygones, Volume 1, page 88. The goose is thought to be a silly bird, and hence the expression "you silly goose" or "you stupid goose," as applied to a person. The falling snow is believed to be the effect of celestial goose feathering, and the patron of geese, St. Michael, is supposed to be then feathering his protégés. The first goose brought to table is called a Michaelmas goose. The large annual fair in Llanrhaeadr and Mochnant is called Fair y Quarter Gwyse, the Quarter Goose Fair. 7 geese on grassland are supposed to eat as much grass as will keep a cow. Permanent grassland is called Tir Gwydd, Gooseland. A bed of goose feathers is required to complete a well-furnished house. The fat of geese, called goose oil, is a recipe for many ailments. A small bone in the head of a goose, called the goose's tooth, is carried in the pocket for luck, and is a sure preventative against toothache. Much of the above paragraph is common to most parts of Wales, but the writer used to be told, when he was a lad, that the snow was caused by the old woman feathering her geese, and a Michaelmas goose was called a green goose, as well as a Michaelmas goose. God's sake, poor geese. Ooh. Next, we have the crow. I like crows. The crow figures much in Welsh folklore. In many ways, he is made to resemble the magpie. Thus, when one crow or one magpie was seen, it was thought to foretell misfortune, as implied by the saying, Un fran ddu, lwc drwg I mi. But should the spectator shout out in a defiant way, Hen fran ddu gras dwi I mi, no harm would follow. The former lines in English would be, one crow I see, bad luck to me. But this foretold evil, brought about by the old black crow, could be counteracted by repeating the following words. Translation of the second couplet with a pause between each line, and thus the last line would assume the form of a prayer. Old black crow, God grace bestow. Or the evil could be hurled back upon the old black crow by the repetition of these words. Hen fran ddu, gras dwi I mi, lwc drwg I ti. Freely translated, these lines would be, Old black crow, God's grace to me, bad luck to thee. In the English-speaking parts of Wales, such as along the borders of Montgomeryshire, adjoining Shropshire, I've heard the following doggerel lines, substituted for the Welsh. Crow, crow, get out of my sight before I kill thee tomorrow night. The bad luck implied by the appearance of one crow could also be overcome, as in the case of the magpie, by making a cross on the ground with finger or stick. Although one crow implied bad luck, 2 crows meant good luck. Thus we have these lines. Dwi fran ddu, lliw dda I mi, 2 black crows, good luck to me. Many prognostications were drawn from the appearance of crows. A crow seen on the highest branch of a tree implied that the person seeing it should shortly see his or her sweetheart. The manner in which they flew foretold a wedding or a burying. When they fly in a long line, there is to be a wedding. If crowded together, a funeral. There is a common expression in Montgomeryshire, Dwyf ran dydyn, the two crows of the farm, just as if each farm has its two crows, either as guardians of the farms. The two crows implied good luck, or as if they were located by couples in various places, which places became their feeding ground and homes. This, however, is not true of rooks, which feed in flocks and roost in flocks. Crow's feathers. So in Montgomeryshire, it was at one time supposed that if a person picked up a crow's feather, he was sure to meet a mad dog before the day was over. But in other parts, it was considered lucky to find a crow's feather. When found, it was stuck on end into the ground. This superstition lingered long in Llanfihangel Glyn, a remote hilly parish in Denbighshire. Some years ago, crows' wings or tail feathers could be seen stuck upright in the ground in many parts of Wales, but at present such a thing cannot be seen. The practice and the superstition have come to an end. A rookery deserted was a sign of bad luck, but when they nested near a house, it was a sign of good luck. The writer visited, in the year 1887, a gentleman's park, where, for generations, the rooks had made a lodgment, and by several persons his attention was called to the ominous fact that the rooks had left the ancestral trees which ornamented the spacious and well-wooded park, and had even carried their nests away with them. He was informed that the desertion boded no good to the highly respected family that occupied that ancient seat. The writer also visited a friend who lives in an ancient abode a mile or two from the rook-rejected park, and with a smile he was informed by the lady of the house that the colony of rooks had taken possession of the trees that surrounded her house. He gladly wished her luck, to which he responded, "It has been a long time coming," and both these places are in East Denbighshire. The writer remembers a case in which a rookery was deserted just before misfortune fell upon the gentleman who occupied the house around which grew the trees occupied by the rooks. This gentleman one morning noticed the rooks carrying away their nests to a new home, called his servant man to him, and desired him to go after the rooks and destroy their nests in their new abode, in the fond hope that they would thus be induced to return to their old home. This was done more than once, but the rooks would not take the hint. They persisted in gathering up the scattered sticks that strewed the ground, but these they replaced in the trees above, which now have become their home. When it was found that they would not return, the man desisted, and his master, as he had feared, met with dire misfortune shortly after. I have two crows who live in the old barn next to my house. Ooh! That's good luck, bro. That's definitely good luck. We have a lot of like crows and like rooks and stuff around. They sometimes get in fights with like the magpies. It's like a turf war in per se. You've got magpies and like rooks and stuff. They both live in the area I live in, because we live in a place with a lot of trees. And you know, they fight a lot of the time. They have their own like areas in like my little town or street area per se, of like, you go on one side you'll see the magpies, and then if you go further down some streets you'll see where all the rooks and stuff are, and if like a magpie comes on the rook's turf, that they're just gonna have a fight, and it's a bit chaos, you know. Sadly, have a few fair bird wars on our hands. I'm envious of the man who befriended ravens and stuff, and they brought him like treasures and stuff. I was like, oh my god. So we have the cuckoo, or y gog, as it is in Welsh. I'm vibing to this music, by the way. The cuckoo is a sacred bird. Oh, we don't get any blue jays around here. We have like a few small wrens and finches. The wrens like to live in the hedges and stuff, and the small. We have like other small like little birds and stuff, but we don't. I've never seen a blue jay around mine, surprisingly. We got a lot of wood pigeons as well, the big fat pigeons. It's safe from the gamekeeper's gun. Its advent is welcomed with pleasure. Have you heard the cuckoo? Is a question put by the fortunate person who first hears its notes to every person he meets. When it is ascertained that the cuckoo has arrived, parents give their children pence for luck, and they themselves take care not to leave their houses with empty pockets, or should they do so, those pockets, if the cuckoo is heard, will be empty all the year. Those who hear the cuckoo for the first time thrust immediately their hands in their pockets and turn their money or toss a piece into the air, and all this is for luck for the coming year, ushered in by the cheering sound of the cuckoo's notes. It is believed that the cuckoo is in our country for several days before its welcome two notes are heard, and that the cause of its huskiness is that it is tired and has not cleared its voice for sucking birds' eggs. Oh my god. Generally, the cuckoo is heard for the first time yearly about the same place, and the hilltops not far from the abodes of man are its favourite resort. Thus we have the ditty Santa Cli Ichan I Cogydd Yw I Fawnog ar y Mynedd. The place where first the cuckoo sings is by the peat pits on the hills. The cuckoo is supposed to be accompanied by the wry neck, hence its name Gwasagog, the cuckoo's servant. The wry neck was thought to build the nest and hatch and feed the young of the cuckoo. Is that the poor bird who gets its nest destroyed every year? Many superstitions cluster around the cuckoo, though. Thus, should a person be in debt as to the way take when going from home to secure success in life, he or she waits for the cuckoo's return. And then should the bird be heard for the first time singing towards the east as it flies, that is the direction to take, or any other direction as the case may be. And it is, or was, even thought that the flight of the cuckoo singing as it flies before a person for the first time in the year indicated a change of abode for that person, and the new home lay in the direction in which the cuckoo flew. Should the cuckoo make its appearance before the leaves appear on the hawthorn bush, it is a sign of a dry, barren year. Os cani gog e thrain llwn llym. Gwerth di gefil ar irin di byw. If the cuckoo sings at the hawthorn bare, sell thy horse and thy pack prepare. The Welsh words I heard at oh my god. Oh god, I cannot speak today. Llanelllyn, there we go. A good many years ago, just as the cuckoo's voice was heard for the first time in those parts, and there were then no leaves on the hedgerows. I do not recollect whether the prophecy became true, but it was an aged Welshman that made use of the words. Another version of the same is heard in Llanwydden's parish, Os canu gog ath binthyr llwn, werth di gefel a pryn de bwn. If the cuckoo sings on a sprig that's bare, sell thy horse and thy pack prepare. The latter ditty suits a hilly country, and the former applies to the lowlands, where there are hedgerows. The early singing of the cuckoo implies a plentiful crop of hay, and this belief is embodied in the following ditty. Misyn clamu canu cogi, miskin aust I cana inni. That is, if the cuckoo sings a month before May Day, I will sing a month before August. Hala Mai, May Day, abbreviated to clam, according to the old style, corresponds with our 12th of May, and the above saying means that there would be such an abundant hay harvest if the cuckoo sang a month before May Day, and the farmer would himself sing for joy on the 12th of July. It was the custom in the uplands of Wales to begin the hay harvest on the 1st of July. The above I heard in Montgomeryshire, and also the following. Misyn clamu canu cogi, misyn hine hif mrille. My God. That is, if the cuckoo sings a month before May Day, primroses will grow a month before that time. I do not know what this means, unless it implies that early primroses foretell an early summer. But speaking of the song of the cuckoo, we have the following lines. Amser I ganu ydy ebryll y Mai, a hanner Mehefin fi wyddog bob trai. This corresponds somewhat with the English. The cuckoo sings in April, the cuckoo sings in May. The cuckoo sings in the middle of June, and then she flies away. In Mochtre Paris, Montgomeryshire, I was told the following. In May she sings all day, in June she's out of tune. So the following Welsh lines show that the cuckoo will not sing when the hay harvest begins. Pan weleth I gochen, ni chanith I uch. When she sees a heap, silence she will keep. In certain parts of Wales, such as Montgomeryshire, bordering on Shropshire, it is thought that the cuckoo never sings after Midsummer Day. This faith finds corroborative support in the following lines. The cuckoo sings in April, the cuckoo sings in May. The cuckoo sings in midsummer, but never on that day. Oh my goodness. Cuckoos are very, very popular apparently. In Flintshire, in Hawarden Parish, it is believed that she mates in June, as shown by these words. The cuckoo comes in April, the cuckoo sings in May, the cuckoo mates in June, and in July she flies away. In Montgomeryshire, I've often heard these lines. The cuckoo is a fine bird. She sings as she flies. She brings us good tidings and never tells us lies. She sucks young bird eggs to make her voice clear, and the more she sings cuckoo, the summer is quite near. The last two lines are varied thus, and then she sings cuckoo 3 months in every year, or, and when she sings cuckoo, the summer is near. Oh God, no! The cuckoo was credited with sucking bird eggs to make room for her own, as well as to acquire a clear voice. Perhaps the rustic belief is at fault here. The writer has seen a cuckoo rise from the ground with an egg in her mouth, but he has seen it stated that the cuckoo always lays her eggs on the ground and carries them in her mouth until she discovers a nest wherein to deposit them. And when she has done this, her mother's care is over. She's like, I'll just leave them here, just leave them in this nest right here. Oh, we're back to roosters. It's a white one this time. Oh. So, a white rooster was looked upon as an unlucky bird. Thus, na chadw bydd hi na hylach di dde, na cheilog gwyn, na cath thee. Never keep about thy house a white cock nor black cat. Oh! But we move on to the crane. The crane is often mistaken for the heron. When the crane flies against the stream, she asks for rain. When with the stream, she asks for fair weather. This bird is said to be thin when the moon wanes and fat at the waxing moon. I don't know the bloody temperaments of the moon. I just know, like, a full moon and a half moon and stuff. I don't know what waxing and waning means. If anyone knows what those mean, do let me know. Like learning. Ducks! I became the duck whisperer the other week. They, like, 3 duckies came and, like, sat by me. I was very emotional. I got so close to touching a duck. I was so sad that I couldn't touch the duck. I wanted to pet them. So when ducks sportively chase each other through the water and flap their wings and dive about, in evident enjoyment of their pastime, it is a sign that rain is not far off. My god, ducks predicting the weather, yo. An eagle. So persons who had an eagle flesh had power to cure erysipelas, and this virtue was said by some to be transmitted to their descendants forever, whilst others affirmed it only lasted for 9 generations. Don't trust ducks. Why don't you trust ducks, Jaguar? It's swans I don't trust. Swans and geese. Geese I find are the worst. Like, the Canadian geese. Not the full white geese. It's usually the other ones, the two-toned coloured geese that give me the evils. Them two. My sister got bit by a goose once, and it was just... I've never looked at them the same since. She was just feeding them, like, seed, and it sort of bit her hand, and she was a very traumatized child from then. She was like, I don't want to feed them anymore. I was like, that's... I mean, you know. I like to look at swans. So, swans are pretty to look at, but I don't want to ever get near them. Some, yes. But the swans are protected by royalty here, so... You know, because I think for at one point they were hunted a while back, and they were becoming victims to people polluting, like, the ponds and stuff like that. And because of their long necks, the swans were getting caught in, like, fishing wire and other stuff like that. So I think, you know, the royal family was like, I'm putting a stop to this. These are fucking protected animals now. And I was like, alright, bet. We get to move on to an interesting little segment called The Goat Sucker. A curious notion prevailed respecting this bird. It is a bird called the goat sucker. What the fuck? So it arrived at, presumably, in consequence of its peculiar name, the goat sucker, viz., that it lives on the milk of the goat, which it obtained by sucking the teats of that animal. Oh my fucking Christ. How? How? How does a bird do that? Does it just peck at it? I'm very curious. They don't have the mouths designed for it. They're not, are they like a hummingbird? They have that, like, long tongue? I'm very fucking... I will be Googling this bird later. Fuck it. I'm Googling it now. I'm gonna grab my phone. I need to see what this is. You know, when you just have that intrusive thought of, what the fuck is this animal? Oh, I'm terrified to know now. What type of bird is it? Is it like a hummingbird? Oh, Jesus Christ, it looks terrifying. Goat sucker bird. Oh my god. It's cute, but it's got like a weird, like, mouth. Very big. Okay, so it's not like a hummingbird or anything. They look a bit like owls. Sparrows. They also have the scientific name like Caprimulligidae. Goatsucker just seems fucking easier to say. Oh my god. So, putting hens to sit. Placing the eggs in the nest for hens, geese and ducks to sit on was considered an important undertaking. This was always done by the lucky member of the family. It was usual to put fowl to sit so as to get the chick out of the egg at the waxing and not at the waning of the moon. It was thought that the young birds were strong or weak according to the age of the moon when they were hatched. March chickens were always considered the best. A game bird hatched in March was thought to be stronger and more plucky than those that broke their shells in any other month. And further, to obtain all extraneous advantages, the bird which was hatched at full moon began life with very good prospects. A singular custom prevailed in Llanfraid, Montgomeryshire, when putting hens and other fowl to sit. I obtained the information from the late vicar, the Reverend R.H.M. Hughes, M.A., an observant gentleman, who took a lively interest in all matters connected with his parish. I was staying with him, and he made the remark that in his parish it was considered lucky to place the hen, when she first began to sit, with her head towards the church. This the cottagers in the village could easily do, for the parish church was in their midst. I do not know whether this kind of proceeding prevailed in other places. The number of eggs placed under a hen varied with her size, but one general rule was followed, viz., an odd number of eggs was always placed under her. 11 or 13 was the usual number, never 10 or 12. We have the heron. So the heron, as it flies slowly toward the source of a river, is said to be going up the river to bring the water down. In other words, this flight is a sign of coming rain. The same thing is said of the crane. Oh. Thirsty work, y'all. So, the fable of why the heron frequents the banks of rivers and lakes. It is from 30 to 40 years ago that I heard the fable I'm about to relate, and the circumstances under which I heard it are briefly as follows. I was walking towards Bangor from Llanfleckid when I saw a farmer at work hedging. I stopped to chat with him, and a bramble which had fastened itself on his trousers gave him a little trouble to get it away. And the man in a pet said, "Have I not paid thee thy tithe?" "Why do you say those words, Enoch?" said I. And he said, "Have you not heard the story?" I confessed my ignorance. After many preliminary remarks, the farmer related the following fable. The heron, the cat, and the bramble brought the tithe of a certain parish. The heron brought the hay, mowed it, harvested it, and cocked it, and intended carrying it the following day. But in the night a storm came on, and carried the hay away. And ever since then, the heron frequents the banks of the river and lakes, looking for her hay that was carried away, and saying, "Pay me my tithe." The cat brought the oats, cut them, and even threshed them, and left them in the barn, intending the following day to take them to market for sale. But when she went into the barn early the next morning, she found the floor covered with rats and mice, which had devoured the oats, and the cat flew at them and fought with them, and drove them from the barn. And this is why she is at enmity with rats and mice even to our day. The bramble brought the wheat, and was more fortunate than the heron and cat, for the wheat was bagged and taken to the market and sold, but sold on trust, and the bramble never got the money. And this is why it takes hold of everyone, and says, "Pay me my tithe," for it forgot to whom the wheat had been sold. A magic bramble bush, that sounds really cool. The jackdaw. So this bird is considered sacred because it frequents church steeples and builds its nest there. And it is said to be an innocent bird, though given to carrying off things and hiding them out of the way places. When ignorance of a fault is pleaded, it is a common saying, "I have no more knowledge of the fact than the devil has of the jackdaw." See Bygones, Volume 1, page 86. The devil evidently will have nothing to do with this bird, because it makes its home in the church steeple, and he hates the church and everything belonging to it. The magpie. So the magpie was considered a bird of ill omen. No one liked to see a magpie when starting on a journey, but in certain parts of Montgomeryshire, such as the parish of Llanwnog, if the magpie flew from left to right, it foretold good luck. But in other parts, such as Llansantifredd, if seen at all, it was considered a sign of bad luck. I remember my grandmother used to tell me the story, the little nursery rhyme of magpies. It was like 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy. I can't remember the rest, but it was like there was a song about magpies. However, fortunately, a person could make void this bad luck, for he had only to spit on the ground and make a cross with his finger or stick through the spittle and boldly say, "Satan, I defy thee." So some people actually still do spit if they do see one magpie. They won't do like the whole stick thing, but you'll find two types of people around, I'd say, but maybe 3. But the most common things that people do that I've seen here, if they see a magpie, they will either A, spit on the ground if they just see one magpie, or they will salute the magpie, or they will just ignore it because they're not really a believer of such things. But you know, I've seen quite a few people, you know, spit or salute when they've seen a magpie, which is pretty interesting. And the curse or bad luck indicates by the appearance of the magpie could not then come. The number of magpies seen implied different events. It was a common saying, 1's grief, 2's mirth, 3's a marriage, 4's a birth. Another rendering of the above heard in Montgomeryshire was 1 for bad luck, 2 for good luck, 3 for a wedding, 4 for a burying. Another ditty is as follows: 1's joys, 2's greet, for crying, 3's a wedding, 4's a sheet, death. As stated above, 1 is grief or bad luck if it flies from right to left, but if from left to right, it implied success or joy. So these various readings can only be reconciled by a little verbal explanation, but 4's a birth cannot be made to an equivalent of 4's a sheet, a winding sheet, or a burying, by any amount of ingenuity. Should a magpie be seen stationary on a tree, it is believed that the direction in which it took its flight foretold another success or disaster to the person who observed it. If it flew to the left, bad luck was to follow. If to the right, good luck. If straight, the journey could be undertaken, provided the bird did not turn to the left whilst in sight, but disappeared in that direction. I heard the following tale in Denbighshire. In days of old, a company of men were stealthily making their way across the country to come upon the enemy unawares. All at once they espied a magpie on a tree, and by common consent they halted to see which way it would take its flight, and thus foretell the fortune which would attend their journey. One of the party, evidently an unbeliever in his comrade's superstition, noisily approached the bird and shot it dead to the great horror of his companions. The leader of the party, in great anger, addressed the luckless archer. "You have shot the bird of fate, and you shall be shot," the dauntless man said. "I shot the magpie, it is true, but if it could foretell our fate, why could it not foresee its own?" The archer's reasoning was good, but I do not know whether people were convinced by logic in those distant times any more than they are in ours. I will relate one other tale of the magpie which I heard upwards of 20 years ago in the parish of Llannog, Montgomeryshire. I was speaking to a farmer's wife, whose name it is not necessary to give, as it has nothing to do with the tale, when a magpie flew across our view. "Ah!" she ejaculated. "I fucking shit you not. What is with this writing? You naughty old thing. What do you want here?" "I see," said I. "You think she brings bad luck with her?" "Oh yes," was the response. "I know she does." "What makes you so positive?" said I. "That she brings bad luck with her." My question elicited the following story. My friend commenced, "You know the brook at the bottom of the hill? Well, my mother met with a very bad luck there a good many years ago, and it was in this way. She was going to Newton Fair on our old horse, and she had a basket of eggs with her. But just as she was going to leave the fold, a magpie flew before her. We begged her to not go that day. The bad luck would attend her. She would not listen to us, but started off. However, she got no further than the brook at the bottom of the hill. But when she got there, the old mare made straight for the brook and jerked the bridle out of mother's hand, and down went the mare's head to drink, and off went the basket and poor mother too. All the eggs were broken, but I'm glad to say my mother was not much the worse for her fall. But ever since then, I know it is unlucky to see a magpie. But sir," she added, "there is no bad luck for us today, for the magpie flew from left to right." The magpie was thought to be a great thief, and it was popularly supposed that if its tongue was split into two with silver, it could talk like a man. The cry of the magpie is a sign of rain. To man, its dreaded notes indicated disaster thus: "Rhyw grechwyn nerth pen, iaith pai, yn addaw. Newyddion ddrwg I mi." List the magpie's hoarse and bitter cry shows that misfortune's sire's nigh. If this bird builds her nest on the top of a tree, the summer will be dry. If on the lower branches, the summer will be wet. Is this why we've got bad weather? Is it? I will be taking about 15-minute break just so I can go and, relax my voice for a little bit, grab a drink. But I have popped on, I've got a lovely treat for you guys. I have got Words on Stream, which, hopefully you guys can find some fun in that. And give it a go while I take my break, instead of, give you something fun to do for 15 minutes. I think you just type in the words in the comment section anyway, and it'll pop up on stream anyway. So hopefully, you've got some anagrams, something to keep you busy while I go on a, 10-15 minute break. I'll try to implement these a bit more as well to give you guys something to do and have a break. But Words on Stream is going to be playing, it'll be up for you guys to play while I go on a about 10-15 minute break. So I will see you guys soon. Hi, Drake! Yep, I'll see you guys about 10-15 minutes, okay? Oh, thank you for the follow, honey. Alright, I will be back with a fresh drink and stuff in about 10-15 minutes. Have fun playing the game, don't worry, and I'll be back soon. I see you guys have been finding this enjoyment today. Oh, good job, Jaguar. Would you like me to do another round for you guys? I could pop up another round for you guys if you want to do another one. I thought I'd add a cute fun thing in. Passing by and I saw it. Of course, Drake. Of course. Yeah, I thought I'd include some fun things for everyone to do while we do some folklore stuff and while I'm on break and stuff. So I was like, I didn't want you guys being a bit bored. So I thought I might as well add those in. But we're doing some Welsh folklore, so I was like, well, during break times and stuff like that, you know, I thought I'd put stuff in there. Of course, I'm thinking of putting it on my Start Soon screen as well. To see how to, you know, pass the time for people, and it's super easy to set up. I'm glad you enjoyed it. It was like a little competition between you guys. I thought it was fun. I like things like that though. But like the timer goes so fast on it. But how are you doing, Drake? Lovely to see you. Popping by my stream and finally following, bro. Yeah, it was really fun. I was on my break and then like my partner's like, do one more round. Amongst stuff. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad to know you're doing better. But we've been doing some fun Welsh folklore. There was a lot of talk about the word cock, which was very funny, which was in term for rooster. And we do get some, yeah. And you get to hear me talk a bit of Welsh and stuff in stuff. So we're on birds at the minute, and what birds and beasts signify in like Welsh folklore and history. You do get to hear me say some Welsh and stuff. They do come with English translations, so it's not too bad. But we're hitting onto the owl at the minute. So the hooting of an owl about a house was considered a sign of ill luck, if not of death. This superstition has found a place in rhyme thus: Os e ddyllian ddaw i'r fro, rhybiddo trwan afiach, dod yno I ddiwedd I maen dyniad, na chef adferiad mwach. So if an owl comes to those parts where someone sick is lying, she comes to say without a doubt that the sick one is dying. And we have peacocks in Wales as well. So the peacock's shrill note is a sign of rain. Its call is supposed to resemble the word gwlaw, the Welsh for rain. I swear this is why we get so much bloody rain here. But pigeons. So if the sick asks for a pigeon pie or the flesh of a pigeon, it is a sign his death is near. If the feathers of a pigeon be in a bed, the sick cannot die on it. Just put constant pigeon feathers on your bed then and you won't die. And we get to the best bird ever, the raven. So the raven has ever enjoyed a notoriously bad name as a bird of ill omen. He was one of those birds which the Jews were to have in abomination, which is in Lev 6, pages 5 to 13. But other nations beside the Jews dreaded the raven. The raven himself is horse, that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under thy battlements, from Macbeth, Act 1, Scene 5. Thus wrote Shakespeare, giving utterance to a superstition then common. From these words it would seem that the raven was considered a sign of evil augury to a person whose house was about to be entered by a visitor, for his croaking forebode treachery. But the raven's croaking was thought to foretell misfortune to a person about to enter another's house. If he heard the croaking, he had better turn back, for an evil fate awaited him. In Denmark, the appearance of a raven in a village is considered an indication that the parish priest is to die, or that the church is to be burnt down that year. From Notes and Queries, Volume 2, 2nd Series, page 325. The Danes of old prognosticated from the appearance of the raven that their banners the result of a battle. If the banner flapped, they exhibited the raven as alive. If augured success, if however it moved not, defeat awaited them. In Welsh, there is a pretty saying, Diw ei ddarpar i'r fran. God provides for the raven. But this, after all, is only another rendering of the lovely words, Your heavenly Father feedeth them. Such words imply... Thank you for the hydrate, honey! Constantly drinking, it's too hot here. Such words imply that the raven is a favoured bird. And then we have the... Of course, Drake! I love having you over. You're free to stop by any time. When I do the folklore for your country in future, you will definitely be coming over as a guest, Drake. Told you this earlier. So once I've covered Wales, I will be delving into different countries' folklore. So, and I intend to get guests from different, countries that I cover. So it'll be very nice to talk with them about their experiences in the country and stuff like that. Yeah, of course. You know I love hanging out with you, bro. We need a good hangout session. Life's just been busy. We have the cute robin redbreast. They were my grandmother's favourite birds, and she used to always tell me, if you see a robin, that we will have snow, which is very weird. We don't get snow that often here, but every time I see a little robin, I always remember my grandmother, so it's really, really sweet. That is the other bird I want to get with the raven, idea tattoo I want to get. And it's sort of tied into my grandparents as well. I want the raven holding a paintbrush, and I want the little robin holding a string from a ball of yarn, which corresponds to my grandmother, who taught me how to knit, and my grandfather, who was a painter and decorator. I thought it was very sweet, So, ill luck is thought to follow the killer of dear Robin Redbreast, the children's winter friend. No one ever shoots Robin, nor do children rob its nest, nor throw stones at it. Bad luck to anyone who does so. The little bird, with its wee body, endeavoured to staunch the blood flowing from the Saviour's side, and it has ever since retained on its breast the stain of his sacred blood, and it consequently enjoys a sacred life. It is safe from harm wherever English is spoken. There is another legend, which is said to be extant in Carmarthenshire, accounting for the robin's red breast. It is given in Bygones, Volume 1, pages 173, from Mr. Hardwick's Traditions, Superstitions, Folklore, etc. Far, far away, in a land of woe, darkness, spirits of evil, and fire, day by day does the little bird bear in its bill a drop of water to quench the flame. So near to the burning stream does he fly that his dear little feathers are scorched, and hence he is named Bronchudin yw Bronchridden, i.e. breast burned or breast scorched. To serve little children, the robin dares approach the infernal pit. No good children will hurt the devoted benefactor of man. The robin returns from the land of fire, and therefore he feels the cold of winter far more than the other birds. He shivers in brumal blasts, and hungry he chirps before your door. O my child, then, in pity throw a few crumbs to poor Redbreast. And if you come to the UK, you will find a lot of seagulls. So it is believed that when seagulls leave the sea for the mountains, it is a sign of stormy weather. A few years ago, I was walking from Corwin to Withelwern, and I overtook an aged man, and we entered into conversation. Noticing the seagulls hovering about, I said there is going to be a storm. The answer of my old companion was yes, for the seagull says before starting from the river shore, Drychin, drychin, awn i'r eithyn. And then when the storm is over, they say one to the other before they take their flight back again to the sea, Hindda, awn i'r morfa, which first couplet may be translated, foul weather, let's go to the heather. And then the two last lines may be rendered, the storm is no more, let's go to the shore. This was the only occasion when I heard the above stanza, and I have spoken to many aged Welshmen, and they had not heard the words, but every one to whom I spoke believed that the seagulls seen at a distance from the sea was a sign of foul weather. We have the swallow. The joy with which the first swallow is welcomed is almost, if not equal, to the welcome given to the cuckoo. One swallow does not make a summer, is an old saw. There is a superstition connected with the swallow that is common in Wales, which is that if it forsakes its old nest on a house, it is a sign of ill luck to that house. But swallows rarely forsake their old nests, and shortly after their arrival, they are busily engaged in repairing the breaches which the storms of winter or mischievous children have made in their abodes, and their pleasant twitterings are a pleasure to the occupants of the house, along which they build their nests, for the visit is a sign of luck. The flight of the swallow is a good weather sign. When the swallow flies high in the air, it is sign of fair weather. When on the other hand it skims the earth, it is a sign of rain. It was a great misfortune to break a swallow's nest, for I neb I dorw nydd I wenol, I wel fyniant i'r rhagwyddol. Whoever breaks a swallow's nest shall forfeit everlasting rest. And the swan? For the eggs of the swan are hatched by thunder and lightning. This bird sings its own death song. They do. They actually get, like, swans can die of a broken heart, and it makes me so sad. So we have the swift. This bird's motions are looked upon as weather signs. Its feeding regions are high up in the air when the weather is settled for fair, and low down when rain is approaching. Its screaming is supposed to indicate the change of weather from fair to rain. So we have the titmajor, or the sawyer, they're also called. So the Reverend E.V. Owen, vicar of Llwyddiaeth in Montgomeryshire, told me that the tit's notes are a sign of rain, at least that it is so considered in his parish. The people called the bird sawyer, and they said its notes resemble in sound the filing of a saw. A man once said to my friend, I dunna like to hear that old sawyer whetting his saw. Why not, said Mr. Owen. 'Cause it'll rain afore morning, was the answer. This bird, if heard in February, when the snow or frost is on the ground, indicates a breaking up of the weather. Its sharp notes rapidly repeated several times in succession are welcome sounds in hard weather, for they show that spring is coming. And then we have the little wren. The wren's life is sacred, excepting at one time of the year, for should anyone take this wee birdie's life away, upon him some mishap will fall. The wren is classed with the robin and the wren, the god's cock and hen. Oh, for God's sake! The cruel sport of hunting the wren on St. Stephen's Day, which the writer has a dim recollection of having, who his boyfriend joined in, was the one time in the year when the wren's life was in jeopardy. The Reverend Sylvan Evans, in the letter to the Academy, which has been reproduced in Bygones Volume 7, page 206, alludes to the sport in these words. Something similar to the hunting of the wren was not unknown to the Principality as late as about a century ago or later. In the Christmas holidays, it was the custom of a certain number of young men, not necessarily boys, to visit the abodes of such couples as had been married within the year. The order of the night, for it was strictly a nightly performance, was to this effect. Having caught a wren, they placed it on a miniature bier or bier made for the occasion, and carried it in procession towards the house which they intended to visit. Having arrived, they serenaded the master and mistress of the house under their bedroom window with the following doggerel. The mar drew, also in view, ne ddern po I gael I rocio. That is, here is the wren, if he is alive, or a sparrow to be roasted. If they could not catch a wren for the occasion, it was lawful to substitute a sparrow, ad erin to. The husband, if agreeable, would then open the door, admit the party, and regale them with plenty of Christmas ale, the obtaining of which being the principal object of the whole performance. The second line in the verse, os yw ein fyw, intimates that possibility the wren is dead, if he is alive. This would generally be the case, as it was next to impossible to secure the little thing until it had been thoroughly exhausted, and then the act of pouncing upon it would itself put an end to its existence. Perhaps the English doggerel was intended to put an end to this cruel sport, by intimidating that wee bird belonging to God was one of his creatures, and that therefore it should not be abused. There is a Welsh couplet, it's still in use. Pw bynnag dora nydd I drew, ni chaiff ef weled wyneb Duw. Whoever breaks a wren's nest shall never see God's face. This saying projects the snug little home of the wren. Much the same thing is said of the robin's nest, but I think this was put, whoever robs a robin's nest shall go to hell. Another Welsh couplet was, I nebo doro nyth I drew, ni chaiff I iechyd and I view. Whoever breaks the wren's nest shall never enjoy good health. Although the robin and the wren were favourites of heaven, still it was supposed that they were under some kind of curse, for it was believed that the robin could not fly through a hedge, it must always fly over, whilst on the other hand, the wren could not fly over a hedge, but it was obliged to make its way through it. Oh, that's kind of sad. We have another type of pigeon called the wood pigeon. Those are the big fat chunky pigeons. We have a lot of those around here. The thrice repeated notes of 5 sounds, with an abrupt note at the end, of which the cooing of the wood pigeon consists, have been construed into words, and these words differ in different places, according to the state of the country and the prevailing sentiments of the people. Of course, the language of the wood pigeon is always the language of the people among whom it lives. He always speaks Welsh in Wales and English in England, but in these days this bird is so far anglicised that it blurts out English all along the borders of Wales. In the cold spring days when food is scarce and the wood pigeon cold, it forms good resolutions, says, Yn i'r haf, P.A. unaf, Gynaf. The summer, I'll make a house, I will. However, when the summer has come with flower and warmth, the wood pigeon ridicules its former resolution and changes its song, for in June it forgets January and how it asks, Yn i'r haf, P.P. unaf, You? In the summer, who'll make a house? Who? But then a house is quite unnecessary, and the trouble to erect one great. The above ditty was told to me by the Reverend John Williams, rector of Newtown, a native of Flintshire. In the English counties bordering upon Wales, such as Herefordshire, the wood pigeon encouraged Welshmen to drive off Englishmen's cattle to their homes by saying, "Take 2 cows, Taffy, take 2 cows, Taffy, take 2. And ever since those days the same song is used, but another version is, "Take 2 cows, Davy, take 2 cows, Davy, 2. The late Reverend R. Williams, rector of Llanfillin, supplied me with the above, and he stated that he obtained it from Herefordshire. In the uplands of Denbighshire, the poor wood pigeon has a hard time of it in the winter, and to make provision for the cold winter days, he, when he sees the farmer sowing spring seed, says, "Dundee, Dundee, high peace, high var, high facbis, ini, buita," which rendered into English is, "Black man, good man, sow peas, sow beans, sow vetches for us to eat." Mr. Hugh Jones, Pentrellyn Camar, a farmer in Llanfihangel Glyn Mivir, a descendant of the bard Robert Davies, Nantgullin, supplied me with the preceding ditty. So, the magpie teaching a wood pigeon how to make a nest. The wood pigeon makes an untidy nest, consisting of a few bits of twigs placed one on the other without much care. There is a fable in the Iolo MSS, pages 159 in Welsh, and the translation appears on page 567 in English as follows. The magpie, observing the slight knowledge of nest building possessed by the wood pigeon, kindly undertook the work of giving his friend a lesson in the art, and as the lesson proceeded, the wood pigeon, bowing, cooed out, "Mewn, mewn, mewn. I know, I know, I know." The instructor was at first pleased with his apt pupil, and proceeded with his lesson. But before another word could be uttered, the bird, swelling with pride at its own importance and knowledge, said again, "I know, I know, I know." The magpie was annoyed at this ignorant assurance, and with bitter sarcasm said, "Since you know, do it then." And this is why the wood pigeon's nest is so untidy in our days. In its mind, it knew all about nest building, and was above receiving instruction, and hence its present clumsy way of building its nests. This fable gave rise to a proverb, as the wood pigeon said to the magpie, "I know." It is believed that when wood pigeons are seen in large flocks, it is a sign of foul weather. And we do have woodpeckers here. Sometimes hear one around my street as well, pecking away at one of the trees. The woodpecker's screech was a sign of rain. This is why Britain is constantly raining and Wales is rainy. All these birds, man, it's like, y'all gonna have bad weather, you're gonna have bad weather, you all get bad weather. This bird is called by 2 names in Welsh, which imply that it foretold storms, as Isgrech I Coed, the wood screech, and Caseg I Dreisin, the storm mare. Oh, I like that one. These names have found a place in Welsh couplets. Isgrech I Coed, Mae'r glaw yn dod, the woodpecker's cry, the rain is nigh. Bardd Nantglyn Robert Davies, Nantglyn, had an englyn to the woodpecker. I gaseg I dreisin, och rag caseg, reg rwygaint I dreisin. Draw achw yn ei cawnant. Ar y fôl pren, uwch pen pant. Dyn storm I canw styrmant. Barddoniaeth ar Davies, page 61. My friend Mr. Richard Williams Kellynog in Newtown translates this stanza as follows. Ah, 'tis the hoarse note of the woodpecker in yonder ravine, on the round trunk of a tree above the hollow, sounding his horn before the coming storm. That's from Yellowhammer, from Penmelyn i'r Eithin. There is a strange belief in Wales that this bird sacrifices her young to feed snakes. I have yet to see a snake in Wales in my area. But we get to move on to some of the beasts instead of the birds. And the top one has to be the ass, which is the donkey, by the way. The stripe over the shoulders of the ass, donkey, is said to have been made by our Lord when he rode into Jerusalem on an ass, a donkey, and ever since the mark remains. It was thought that the milk of an ass, donkey, could cure the decay or consumption. This faith was common 50 years ago in Llanidlos, Montgomeryshire. I do not know whether it is now. People then believed that ass's milk, donkey's milk, was more nutritious than other kinds of food for persons whose constitutions were weak. And now we have the bee, the cute little bumblebee. You can't be very threatening in Welsh when you say bumblebee. Oh, look, it's a bumblebee. The little busy bee has been from times of old an object of admiration and superstition. It is thought that they are sufficiently sensitive to feel a slight and sufficiently vindictive to resent one. And as they are too valuable to be carelessly provoked to anger, they are variously perpetuated by the cottager when their wrath is supposed to have been roused. It is even thought that they take an interest in human affairs, and it is therefore considered expedient to give them formal notice of certain occurrences. Ah, yes, the bee is invested in our human affairs. We must tell them in advance if we are doing stuff. So, buying a hive of bees. So in the central parts of Denbighshire, people suppose that a hive of bees, if bought, will not thrive, but that a present of a hive leads to its well-doing. The cottager in the Venechid, informed the writer that a friend gave her the hive she had, and that consequently she had had luck with it. But she added, had I bought it, I could not have expected anything from it, for bought hives do badly. This was in the centre of Denbighshire. We have the time of bee swarming. So the month in which bees swarm is considered of the greatest importance, and undoubtedly it is so, for the sooner they swarm, the longer their summer, and therefore the greater the quantity of honey which they will accumulate. A late swarm cannot gather honey from every opening flower, because the flower season will have partly passed before they leave their old home. This faith has found expression in the following lines. A swarm of bees in May is worth a load of hay. A swarm of bees in June is worth a silver spoon. A swarm of bees in July not worth a fly. These words are often uttered by cottagers when a swarm takes place in the respective months named in the lines. It is really very seldom that a swarm takes place in our days in May, and many a swarm takes place in July, which is of more value than a fly. But however, be this as it may, the rhyme expresses the belief of many people. We have the day of swarming. So Sunday is the favourite day for bee swarming. Country people say, when looking at their bees clustering outside the hive and dangling like a rope from it, oh, they won't swarm until next Sunday. And it is true that they are often right in their calculations. For bees seem to prefer the peaceful day of rest to all other days for their flight. The kettle and pan beating are often heard of a Sunday in those parts of the country where bees are reared. It is possible that the quietness of the day and the cessation of everyday noise is appreciated by the little creatures, and that the prevailing stillness entices them to take then their flight from their old homes to seek a new one. They say luck comes with a strange swarm, so it is considered very lucky indeed to find that a strange swarm of bees has arrived in the garden or tree belonging to a cottager. The advent of the bees is joyfully welcomed, and the conversation of the neighbours on such an occasion intimates that they think that good fortune will come with them to the person whom they had condescended to honour with their presence. Occasionally, if bees settle down on property of doubtful ownership, a good deal of wrangling and bad feeling arises between the rival claimants for their possession. Okay. But we will be back with our bee talk next Friday. Oh, because my voice be getting a bit croaky. But I am having so much fun getting back into it, to be honest. It took a bit out my throat then, so I was like, oh, you know, it happens. But we are going to visit such a dear streamer. We're going to visit Kindred today. And you'll be seeing the words on stream during all my start screens, just for now, you know. I will see you go tomorrow, because Lion is going to be joining me on stream tomorrow. And we're going to be playing a co-op game. I forget the name right now, but I will be popping it up on Twitter tomorrow. While he is dealing with low internet on his end, where he's unable to stream on his Twitch and game, he will be coming over to my stream tomorrow, and we will be playing. It's like a 2-player game where you have to sort of like experience prison together and stuff like that. My first time playing a game like that, but I would love for you guys to come and stop by and visit Kindred with me today. You know, he is a, you know, muscly himbo VTuber with his little cat on his shoulder. Always worth going over to give him some love anyway, because he is super nice. He has a nice soothing voice, so I thought I would send you over to one of my favourite streamers who has a lovely soothing voice to end out on this, you know, chill, relaxed stream with me. But I hope you guys have enjoyed, you know, me bringing back Folklore Friday, because I know many of you were asking about it recently. So this will be back for every Friday. And if you guys have any future, you know, countries you would like me to cover in terms of folklore, do send that over to my Twitter as always. And I will see you guys tomorrow. So have a lovely Friday, however you're spending it. And I will see you all tomorrow. Thank you guys so much for coming. And I love and appreciate you all very, very much. I will see you guys tomorrow, but it's good night from me. Take care, guys. Bye-bye now.